Alright, we should be recording. I just want to see that file. I see the file. Yeah, this is still kind of loud in my ears, but yeah, it's Going Medieval Early Access, and I'm accused by Tinsley PR for the Irregular Corporation, and I am still using I am on the laptop, Windows 16. Not much. Not much has changed. I've discovered this thing apparently kicks ass at processing video. I was not expecting so much, and I kind of intended to use a recording profile that would actually be X264 instead of AMF, but no, it's an AMF still. Yeah, I mean that's fine, but no, I mean it's how is this? Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, so oh man, this is so annoying. So I'm looking at the meters in OBS, and it is green. It occasionally taps yellow for the game audio, but it is so loud in my ears. My headphones are so efficient with this, and Windows is at 25%. This is so loud. I talk about that positively in the review that I haven't submitted yet. I'm going to do media selection today, probably submit it tomorrow, which tomorrow is a Saturday. But oh man, I do consider that a positive because I don't know where my headphones fall as far as efficiency. But it's this does imply that less efficient. Yeah, it must be that I'm just less efficient headphones should probably be fine. But it's still, I'm persuaded that I think they are the Cost Pro 4S, which are really nice and very comfortable. They are actually studio grade, studio level headphones, so they're going to be made. They should be accurate. Some headphones are not. I do not know what is up with this audio. I want to blame the game though, because other sounds are coming through. It's just like the rain isn't coming properly. Anyway, but yeah, so their frequency responsive should be, and when I've seen it, it is relatively flat. There's some headphones that like just have better response in the bass, so you get something more. And I want to say that's something that you actually do see with gaming headphones and headsets, where they try to target that sound specifically. Yeah, it is limestone block. But that's not what I like. I prefer the more, technically it's considered neutral, but the more like, no, this is what the audio is supposed to sound like. What else is nice about these is it actually has dual entry, so I can and pass through. So there's actually, I just have, it's the 3.5mm cables that's plugged in currently to the laptop with the audio expansion card. The other end of the cable is also that. It's just plugged into headphones. I can unplug it on one side, plug it in on the other, based on whatever's more comfortable. But I can also plug another headphone into the other one, and it passes through. They're really neat headphones, and they're not that expensive either. I mean, sure, they are way more expensive, and maybe those more expensive ones are better. But these are don't think it needs to be that loud when. What was I working towards in here? I was working towards something. It would not have been that. I don't only use it for the numbers. I will actually turn num lock off, so I've got home and end immediately accessible to me. And that is very much a thing, right? They changed how number lock goes, and I can kind of understand why they had the idea to do it, but I absolutely, unequivocally reject that they did, that they should have done. So the number pad has backlights, has white LED backlights on it, so you can, turn that on and it's illuminated. What they decided to do, because the number pad itself, they could have had a key just for turning that on, or a key to make turning it on accessible. No, they decided we're going to put that on a separate layer. Okay, then just have a button, to turn on that layer. Well, no, we're not doing that either. We're going to make number lock when you turn that off. It also turns on this layer, which makes the enter key no longer enter. It toggles the backlight on and off. It makes the plus key no longer plus. It changes what the effect is. No. I'm sorry, you don't do that. Number lock is very, very, very well established. Okay? Everyone that ever used a full-size keyboard knows what number lock does. And it does not change enter and plus. It only changes the number keys 0 and the point. I did discover that they do have a knowledge base thing for what the okay. Yeah, how we have it written out. But they do have a knowledge base thing for the default key map. It explains that, enter becomes toggle backlight, number lock becomes toggle backlight, which is not actually accurate, but there's only the two lighting effects. One is solid, one is breathing, and the key is actually just going to go between them. But no, I just need to check because key on numpad, it just have the dot. Numlock on, it has the dot, and then in parentheses says dot. It's like, that should actually have been the same, because, anyway. Yeah, as I was saying, that we all know how that works, and they changed it. Which I will have numlock off and want to use the enter key, and I can't. So, yeah, and it's like, I am deeply annoyed and frustrated by this. Now, there's a proper way of fixing it, because all they did is they have in the QMK code, because it is QMK, is they have it set to, when number lock is on, hey, change with the layers, okay? I mean, it's, neat little function there that you can see and learn from. Unfortunately, that is something that is only editable by making the firmware. And that firmware situation is kind of screwed up. They need to clean that up. And hopefully they will. I actually, I think I mentioned last week, I did reach out to them with some questions that were as a customer. Let me be clear with that. And so far, all it is they're just escalating because there's also something else that I think the firmware that I have is broken. It seems. The funny thing is, except for the number pad thing, I prefer how it's broken. I'll get to that in a minute. But the proper way for me to remove that function from the firmware, which you have to compile and flash it with. The way I've done it is just in VIA, because you can't find edit the keypads. The layer that has the backlight controls, I just basically disable stuff. So it'll just pass through and be the default Bluetooth. What this does mean, I have a layer I cannot change. Now, true, I explained there's 16 layers here, so that's plenty, but it still is. I shouldn't have to change a layer. Well, I shouldn't have to lose a layer because of them basically deciding that we're going to change the decades-old basic function of keyboards because we want to. I mean, I'm sorry, that really is just wrong, especially when it's a game has other means of changing layers. I mean, it's like, we don't need. So above the number lock, we have escape. Okay, I can see that being as count the button to pull the calculator. Actually, no, I'm going to say not, because if you do bring a calculator, if you have the calculator app open, you would enter 2 keys before equals, so you don't need the extra key. Because like they have these 4 extra keys, I can understand escape being nice. Oh, you know what? Actually, I know exactly where escape is there. Yes, escape should be there, because it's in the upper left. So if I had a sound where configuration with the numpad were on the left, that means that the upper left corner is still escape. That makes perfect sense now that I think that. In backspace, I can see just being nice. That still leaves 2 keys. They can have one of those instead of being calculator be to activate it later. That would then, hey, now calculator is like, you know, hit that, hit double buck, now you get calculator. And the equals could just be a backward buck. That would make far more sense than this, and it wouldn't be amusing number. Part of the way, if you want to see another way that describes something analogous to being so frustrated, look at my Doom Eternal here in the gameplay section when I talk about the cars at the bottom. And the Arc. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but it was like ARCHEVILLE. Let me see if I can look this up, what the name of that enemy is. I went on for probably about a page just because of how stupidly designed that was. And I think there actually is an apostrophe somewhere in there, but this should be... it's not with 2 L's. Okay, yeah, so it's Arch, ARCH-VIL. But yeah, it is how they handle showing that to the player is terrible. You've already been introduced to the notion of a buff totem, which when that's in an arena, enemies keep spawning and they have a red aura on them because of being buffed. The Archville will also summon in enemies and also produces a kind of red aura on some of them, exactly, not all. So naturally, seeing this aura and enemies still spawning in, you will continue spawning in. You're going to hunt for a buff totem. There isn't one. It's this thing. And there is kind of a cutscene showing it off, but it's only shown one time. Every time you die and immediately respawn, you're using up your lives. You don't see it. And it basically just is, hey, there's this new enemy. I mean, it's not like, oh, it's spawning things in. It's not as clear that that is what it is doing, or that it is rather the source of the aura. That is not clear. So you end up being, it ended up very much confusing me because it's like, well, why is this such a... Huh. Oh, well, yeah, I can fix that. Get all those off. I will admit, it had not occurred to me to put floors in. But I guess it does make sense, because that's where they are dropping this stuff. It also, yeah, it will stop the bushes and such from growing. So that actually is a good thing to do anyway. But yeah, it was, so Doom Eternal, I purchased that myself, which I'm fine with. Well, I'm fine with having purchased the base game. I don't like that I purchased the Legendary Edition, because I didn't want to touch that DLC. I did not like how Doom Eternal did various things in the DLC. It sounded like, yeah, we doubled down on the stuff that people hated. But still, it is shortly after release that I'm playing the game, and I focus and get through that game. Okay, so it's not like, oh, I'm only putting in a couple hours after work. No, I mean, say I didn't have a day job yet, so I was able to just do this. But still, I finished the game. I'm ready for the game, and as a curiosity, I decided to just type in that's what just occurred to me, that I should be able to do that. But how do you put it in the that I can't quite figure out. I don't know what the point of the bug is. But yeah, so it's like in that you had a visual language established and they abused it in Doom Eternal, confusing many people, including myself. So yes, I got salty about it in that review. Very salty. Because I went at, because that was basically look, this is like game design 101, and they're screwing it up. You don't screw that up. But this, I feel, is kind of similar in that there is, not exactly a visual language, but there is an established, this is what number lock does, and they disregarded it. They disregarded that. They just did what they wanted to do, which is contrary to what number lock has done for decades. And I'm sorry, no one should have to look up what is the default key map for a number pad. Okay? No one should have to look that up. Especially not for the main key. I mean, I can understand the first 4 keys, but they're labeled escape. There's an equal sign, and then the same symbol that you use on the backspace key. Okay. It's just a calculator key that you might not know, which is a box, a square with a plus, a minus, an X 4 times, and the division symbol, the line with 2 dots, one above, one below, in there. Say, okay, that could be various things. It's a calculator key. All right. You hit that, calculator comes up. Okay, I know what that is. That makes sense to explain. But numlock, that's established. Slash, established. The asterisk, established. Dash or minus, established. 7 with the home symbol below it, established. 8 with an up arrow above it, established. 9 with a page down, established. The plus key, established. 4 with an arrow, established. 5 with nothing is established. And yeah, with number lock, all 5 does nothing. 6 with an arrow, established. Plus key again. 1 with the end symbol on there, established. 2 with an arrow, established. 3 with page down, established. Enter key, established. 0 with insert, established. Dot and delete, established. All that stuff is established. You don't change that. You do not change that. Oh, man. I mean, that would be like if hitting caps lock also made the symbol keys on the keyboard no longer like their shift. So instead of a square bracket, you get a curly. Instead of a period, you got a greater than sign. Instead of a slash, you got a question mark. That's what it would be. That's essentially what we're talking about here. Except that at least you see it on the key. There is nothing on the enter or the plus key to indicate these alternate functions. Which actually, if they put those on there, that would actually solve the problem that I have. I still would dislike it because I want enter there. I want plus there, even on numlock. But at least then there's information without having to look it up in the knowledge base, which, I'll be honest, I do not like their knowledge base. I feel that it could use a major overhaul so that you can find stuff more quickly. Because, I mean, it's like something like this. I have to search to find it. Like, actually put that in. Why don't you just have here's the Framework 16 knowledge base. Here's the default key maps for stuff. Here's how to install the expansion slots. Here's the information on what expansion slots do what. It's like, just collect it all together. Instead, it's like just, well, here's... I know this isn't how it works, but I'm just going to say this. Forgive me. It's like, here are blog posts. And they're not blog posts. I know that could be a degrading way to describe those. I don't mean it in that form. I do not. But I just mean everything is like its own small article, and it's just, oh yeah, we're showing it to you now. And it's just annoying that, because like, why are you doing it this way? Okay, you know what I just realized? That's why the thing is just hanging out there. I was trying to figure out, why is it there? Oh, because it hasn't had a place to go. When did I even get that? Yeah, you know, let's still try. Holy crap, I got a lot of chickens. He's all domesticated, though. Wait, let's... We can slaughter... if they're over 20, whoa, there's a 40 here. I can go ahead and slaughter that one at 30. Because they should... I got males. Okay, and I got a decent number of females, but not so many. I don't know what that one was. And it really should. It would be nice if they did have an algorithm here. It's like at this age, they slaughter them. But also it's like make sure that you always have a minimum this number and that number of male and female. But yeah. Oh, and also one other thing about the keyboard. The key map is actually kind of screwed up. So, but it's weird. So, I want the function row to be the F keys, right? And that's how it is for me. So I'm happy. I'm really happy. I talked about that in the review. I'm happy. But if I load up Via, and its framework's variant of Via, not Via itself, which is another question I had for them, it shows that it's actually the media keys. So, like if I hit F1, it's supposed to, supposedly, be... Wait, what? How would there be a carcass? I was like, it couldn't already be there. Because... That makes no sense. Hang on. What the hell? Oh, okay. No, yeah, I don't want any carcasses there, actually. I don't mind this because that's what I want. It's not right. It's technically incorrect, but I'll take it. But I did actually mention this and reported it. Wow. Is it just... Now this is still storage here. Just abandoned. So anyway, I have some issues that just communicate firmware, but it's always like it's early firmware, so things when entirely configured right. That got flashed, and it's like yeah, you just for me it would just be recompile. When I run into this before recompile, reflash, we're all good. So it's like in theory that's all that would be necessary, but it's also they don't have a. So I did turn down the level for the mic, But OBS is still showing it actually going into the red. So yeah, I'm going to lower it further. So hopefully that'll be better. I noticed when I did some other recordings, I was really peaking, and I did not realize that. And that would have been the case last week as well. I don't know. I do not know. But at least the processing that I do will level things out. It's just if it clips, then it's clipping, and I can't do anything about that. Anyhow, I know I was getting to the point about the QMK firmware, that the source code itself is screwed up for framework. That's right, but I did also ask them about when we might see VIA support like official instead of it having to be a variant that we get. Because we have to go to keyboard.com.work currently to get a version of it. That works with the input modules. You can't go to the actual VIA app, which that does annoy me. It should be a single thing. Their code, the QMK code, so the source code that you compile to make the firmware, they have in their own repository. It's not been pulled into the main QMK repository. It's like, okay, I can understand that. It's the whole only so much time, and it's you submit the pull request and say, okay, now we need to wait and see when it actually gets pulled in, and all that. It takes a while. I get that, and it's like I've had like the Pi 40, that keyboard, that actually did. I think I was no, that was VIA support. There was something. I think I had one keyboard that was new enough. It actually wasn't able to communicate fully. At the time I was building it, I had to wait, which was fine. It didn't take that long. Framework has technically had the QMK code for months, because you can see in their repository some of it is months old. Like some of the last changes, like it actually says making the F keys not the default layer. I reject that that's ever a good decision. And I can explain that. I can defend that one. But that was actually a change made 3 months ago. Why didn't they submit it 3 months ago to be in the main QMK repository? But making it even worse, there's 5 different branches of the code that does indicate it's for the Framework 16. There's one that's Framework 16 keyboard or Framework 16 laptop. And then, here, I can actually pull it up on the desktop. Okay, so yes, we have Framework 16-keyboards. We have F16-V0.2.4-prep-no-suspend. It's actually FL16 V025 prep, another FL16 V026 keep alive, then FL16 V028 prep. That's 5 different branches that all contain a variant of the keyboards, of these key maps. Which one am I supposed to use? Which one is anyone supposed to use if they want to, have the latest source code to work from? I have no idea, because the V028 prep appears to be the newest. That got the latest commit, not Framework 16 keyboards, which, just plain reading, is the one you'd think to go to. No, that's actually out of date compared to the others. What the hell are they doing? And it should be pulled into main QMK, because then it's okay, I can go there, I know I'm getting the latest version of QMK, and it's the version for the input modules. It is the version. Right? Framework can have their own and just, hey, we made a change, okay, we want to have that pulled in, submit the request, that'll eventually be done. You could do that. But instead, it's, no, we have to look at your own fork of it, which might not have up-to-date QMK, and which one do we work from? It's, and there's also many more branches, because there's the master branch, there's airplane mode. IS31FL3741-config, ISO regular / lotus.low power, lotus.selective suspend, lotus caps matrix, lotus EVT, Lotus EVT2, Lotus Joystick, Lotus ID, Lotus LED Matrix, Prep V023, PWM Period V024 Prep, BIOS V023. There's a lot. Oh my god, I just realized there's even more Framework 16s. Framework 16 3x3 1 key, 3x3 1 key dot KSO0 KSI 0, I believe, because they're. I don't know why you'd go lowercase o, uppercase o. The FL16 3x3 1 key, FL16 1A, FL16 180, base ship, FL16 8, I mean, it's great that they do have, Framework does have so much stuff that is on their GitHub so that anyone can access it. That's great. Right? I'm happy that they're doing that. But it still is something like this. I kind of feel it's almost all right, well, put your money where your mouth is. And actually put some of the stuff in there. I think that will work, and people will still be able to get through. That legitimately is part of what I wanted to have here, and I think it'll be fine outside like this. But yeah, oh man, I'm gonna have to change the article now because that is absurd. The number there. I mean, just imagine you are somebody who you like the modularity of the Framework laptops in general. You order the Framework 16. It's like, oh, I can change the firmware, make new firmware, change keys, do all that wonderful stuff with these input modules. Well, once I get that, I'll start experimenting with it. You look up QMK, it's not there. Okay. you look up frameworks GitHub repository, and it's like, oh, there we go. There's QMK firmware-keyboards. Okay, yeah, well, the master actually doesn't have it. It doesn't. So their master branch that they're using frameworks QMK for, they didn't pull anything in there. So the framework keyboards are not in that. They're just in these other branches, which I understand why you do that. I don't have a criticism there. But it still is okay, so I need a different branch. Let's assume somebody understands how Git is working, but just is not familiar with QMK. Very reasonable, very reasonable. They are now seeing, what was it, 23? How many was it that accounted? Yeah, let me actually, no. That's... Okay. So filtering down to just all those with 16 in them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That should be 20, so 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep. Yes, 23. What the hell are they going to do? Somebody who isn't familiar with this. I mean, even I, who am familiar with some of this, I'm not going to want to go through all this and figure out which one is the best. Well, by that I mean newest, is the most up to date. Which one is the best reference to work from? I don't want to do it. And I have enough knowledge that I could. So somebody that would be new at it, and it's just like, hey, they love the idea of frameworks, so that's what they want to support, that's what they want to have. This is a nightmare. This is a minefield for them. So yeah, oh man, that really annoys me. Even more so now. But it is as I said, this is something I'm laughing at. I shouldn't be, though. I 100% should not be laughing at this. Because it shouldn't be this way. It also makes me wonder a little bit how they did the firmware. Because, honestly, this is what I would do. If I were at Framework, or if I were at Framework now as an employee, or if I was there when they were first talking about doing the Framework 16, these input modules. What I would have said, because I've got my experience with custom mechanical keyboards, I would have said, okay, I know some companies that do this, I have heard some of them work with customer relations. Why? Contact one of them that I they designed it well, they brought it over firmware from scratch. Contact them and be like, hey, do this work for us? Can we do that? That's what I would do. Because then it's like, okay, you definitely have the experience. And it's also like, me personally, that's something I experience. And they do the QMK firmware, and does get submitted to main QMK. And I would be like, hang on, I just realized. Sword takes more. Alright. Sure, let's make one for everyone. And because they would also know how to submit all that. It's like, that's what I would do. This feels to me like it was they decided to have their own people do it. And just the fact that it hasn't been into main QMK, at least last time I was, which granted was last week. It's possible it's changed since then. It is possible. It is entirely feasible to me that Flax seeds, I'm good on the amount. Herbs. Red currant pie. Okay. Actually, I'm kind of surprised they're not wearing any of those. Yeah, don't need those clothes. I think I can. Yeah, because these are all in storage. Okay. So that'll actually work fine. I got another dog. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to amend that because I mean this. If you're not familiar with Git, you will have no clue what's going on. If you're not familiar with QMK, but are familiar with Git, you'll figure some stuff out, but you'll probably still be where do I start here? You know, the whole thing I was pointing out, which one do I do? Yeah, that is just, oh man. Oh, it'll be interesting when I hear back. And to be fair, they are busy. And the last message I got was, yeah, we're escalating this to our engineers. Because I mean, the fact that the firmware, the firmware is basically miscompiled. I mean, it's functional. It's functional, and I'm happy with how it's functioning. But that is actually enough to prompt someone to be like, what the hell's going on here? But as I said, when I found something like that previously, it was completely just I needed to recompile it. So, and I think it was even like the firmware that something came with that I needed to replace. So it was like a firmware that was made before everything was put into main QMK, and then I was able to move that in. So yeah, and actually I'm like really concerned about and that's not just but it's just this is so why am I concerned? And okay, I can save against anyway, so I can stop for 50 minutes. So they have the 5 keyboards listed. ANSI, which would be American, the US English layout. ISO, which would be the European layout. I don't remember if they offer non-English or not on the ISO. JIS, which would be a Japanese layout, as I recall. And numpad, macpad you get. And it says size keyboard in this table, and it says number of keys, which is, I thought I had the count wrong. But no, it's, because it says the numpad is 21 keys. Well, it's 4x5 is a normal number pad plus 4. So 4x5 is 20, but you need to subtract 3 because plus, enter, and 0 are double size, so that's actually 17 plus 4, 21, so that's correct. But ANSI, it also gives the backlight and says ANSI RGB/white, ISO white, JIS white, numpad white, macropad RGB. You wouldn't want the RGB firmware for a keyboard that doesn't have RGB LEDs. I mean, you can do that, but it's like that's going to enable all the RGB effects that don't do anything. Like if you cut those out, and you can select. I've done this on. I don't quite remember which keyboard. We have compiled the firmware to remove certain specific RGB effects, just because there's a lot there that I don't care about. I don't need those. So this you're adding to now. True, the RP2040 controller has a lot of space. You can fit almost any QMK firmware on there easily, so that's fine. But still, you're going to have key codes now listed that are meaningless. And also, you're going to have under lighting all the RGB effects. That really is not... Yeah, it is... They should have that actually split into two different keyboards. They truly should. Unless QMK has changed a lot since last time I worked with it, which was a while ago. Whenever the Pi 50 came out. Yeah, so wow, that's... I looking at that, I'm genuinely... I'm... My genuine feeling here... it's still just a guess. But the guess is this was put together by somebody who hasn't built QMK-based keyboards previously. And that they learned, but that certain things like knowing white backlighting shouldn't be getting the RGB stuff in the firmware, that's something that somebody with more experience with QMK would know, yeah, don't do that. Why would you waste the space? True, it doesn't matter. The RP2040 has plenty of space, but still is the whole, yeah, but now you're going to have all these key codes that are going to be available that do nothing, and not everyone's going to know that. Right? They'd have to try it, see it does nothing, be confused, maybe send in a support ticket. That's not the situation you want to have, and that's the situation they're creating. So, I mean, you don't want that situation, so it's definitely you don't want to create it, and that's exactly what they're doing. Wait a minute. Oh man, I didn't even notice that because I didn't read through it perfectly. Flashing example for the ANSI keyboard, and what it gives is actually just how to compile the keyboard. I mean, it's literally the same command as up above for compiling, so that's not even the right command. But it's also the RP2040 controller. It's a Raspberry Pi controller. It's on the Pi Pico, which is what my Pi 40 and Pi 50 both use. Now, for both of those, the way to enter and actually another macropad I built for my brother, that also uses an RP2040 controller, but it's on it's not on Pi Pico. It's on something else. It's mimicking the Pro Micro controller inside. So it's drop-in, but it uses a different controller. You need to use different firmware. In order to make these flashable, you hit a button, which they do note, key code and layout for entering enter the bootloader in 3 ways. They actually list 5. On the Framework laptop 16 keyboard, hold left alt and right alt while installing the module, which that's terrible. Because it's like you have to have this partially disassembled and you have to be pushing. No. The key code and layout is how you should do it. Framework 16 numpad, yeah. On Raspberry Pi Pico, this is not relevant. Hold down boot select button while plugging in. That's on a Pi Pico. It's not. I looked at the numberpad module. There's no button there for it, like on the back or something. Also, I wouldn't want to, when plugging these in, do that. Boot magic reset. Hold down the key at 00 in the matrix, which is usually the top left key, at boot. Well, when plugging the keyboard. And the other, and this is what I think would be the easiest, because you're not having to do something while it's booting up, or while trying to hit the connector and push the pogo pins in and all that. Key code and layout. Press the key map to QK boot if it is available. You would be able to put that on there through VIA. That's easy. That's easy. But every RP2040 keyboard I've used, in order to flash it, you do this bootloader, it turns it into a drive. into a USB drive. You then drag and drop the firmware onto the drive. It detects that, oh, that's firmware for me. I need to install that. So it basically shuts down the connection, installs it, boots it back up, and now I got the keyboard. So, and that's not at all stated here. There is nothing in here saying that that is what you're supposed to do to flash. And it's like, again, how would somebody know that? And I'm just checking. It does say who the keyboard maintainer is here in the repository, and this person is a framework employee, it looks like. And it's I'm not going to. The whole thing I was saying before about how they probably had their own engineer work on it instead of like bringing somebody in who has all the experience. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to have their own engineer doing it. I'm just, my whole point about that rant was that there are things that if you're more familiar with QMK, I think you would know don't do it this way. Like the whole RGB and white, well, RGB being enabled on a keyboard without that support. That's, yeah. Okay. And what is this now? Okay, just another text I don't need to worry about. But yeah, so it's I cannot and shall not fault them for having their own engineer do it. There are quirks here that my limited experience with QMK, and I've never built a keyboard in QMK completely. I've always just taken from it's already existing, gone in and edit, made those changes. I've gotten kind of advanced in those changes, but I've never done what this guy had to have done. But still is like mixing one firmware for both types of backlighting. I still would know, no, don't do that. I'm also coming from when it's like, yeah, there's limited space on the controller for the firmware. Not an issue with RP2040, but yeah, but still, the fact that there is no true information on how to flash the keyboard in this guide is very troubling to me, because that does mean somebody could make up their stuff, and they could even like have it be okay, compile this. I need to put it into the bootloader first because it says, hey, flashing example is what the compile command is. So okay, put it into that, which if these modules behave anything like the RP2040 keyboards I've worked with before, it is now useless. Like the module would not be able to be used as a keyboard anymore because it has no firmware for it. It goes back to its basic OS. So you could have your keyboard now showing up as a storage drive. Maybe you have a file, maybe you don't, but you don't have a keyboard anymore until you put the file on there and it flashes. But it doesn't tell you that. Oh man, it just looks so much to me like somebody did this who might have had the technical expertise to do it, but not the experience to not properly document this. Wow. That I'm not going to put into the review. The stuff with the bootloader situation. 95% of people will never even touch this, okay? They would just use VIA and that's it. They'll be happy there. But if I do hear back from them and can engage a conversation on this stuff, I would ask about that. I would definitely bring that up with them because like this isn't non-helpful. This is potentially anti-helpful. Like it's going to make the situation worse. Because if Pro Micro, Elite C, those controllers, those older ones, if you put that into the bootloader mode, into the reset, it is no longer functioning as a keyboard. But if you just unplug and plug it back in, it then is. It puts it in a mode ready to accept new firmware, but hasn't wiped the old. RP2040, you put it into a mode to accept new firmware, it wipes the old. So that is such a problem. And I did ask about that because that is a concern, especially because I've not seen anywhere that there's and here's the firmware files that we put on there so you can flash it yourself if something goes wrong. Nothing like that. And that I added that question. It wasn't in my initial set of questions to them, but that is also very significant. Because like with 1UP, I can find those firmware files. Like they host them themselves, but also because all their stuff supports VIA. VIA actually keeps their own list of compiled firmware, or at least they used to, for the keyboard. So you could go there and find it. So it's like there were ways to find. I have no idea where I'd find it for a framework. So I did not intend for this entire thing would just be me talking about this stuff, talking about the framework laptop. It was not my intent. Because I actually had a couple other things I wanted to talk about. One is actually Going Medieval. They have announced, and it is in the Friday write-up, that they are changing the save system. Now, this shouldn't trigger a save wipe, but how they basically put it was, what we have works, but it's clunky. We want to go to a more advanced system that would enable faster saving and faster loading, but also enable some new features like having multiple settlements on the same map. And also it'll help enable some more mod support, and there's probably other features as well that it will enable. That is coming with version 0.18. But there will first be a version on the experimental branch so that people can go to that and try and work through the migration to the newer save system. I'm not going to do that. I will just wait, because I don't want to. If it were a entirely separate branch that was just for the migration, I might do it. But it sounds like they just have an experimental branch as a future version. I don't want the other changes. I will wait and just get the stuff as it comes to the stable branch of early access. But yeah, so there is that. The other big piece of news, and we're going to get more in a couple weeks. At GDC, Microsoft has said that they will talk about DirectSR. So that's the Super Resolution API. Let me be clear, it's an API, which I've seen some people describing DirectSR as something else, and it's not. It is not a super resolution method. It is not a replacement to DLSS, FSR, or XeSS. It is not a replacement to any of those. It's an API. Still a very good and clever API, though. So what it is going to do is take Going Medieval. In order for Going Medieval or any game to work with any of the super resolution things, it has to provide certain information to that tool, and then it expects certain information back. What FSR expects for inputs and outputs is different from DLSS, is different from XeSS. Right? They're all different from each other. DirectSR is going to be a single API that, hey, just give it this information. It now passes on or changes it does, whatever processing it would need to do, to then pass it off to, oh, I see you have an RTX GPU. DLSS will now get its inputs, will provide me the outputs, and then I provide it to the game. Oh, you have an AMD GPU. I'll do it with FSR. In theory, there should also be a way to say, hey, I want the FSR algorithm instead of DLSS. Because there will be instances where one is better than, like in The Witcher 3, I found FSR 2 to actually look better, produce a better image than DLSS. Not true, that was me, and it was a 6 1 half a dozen of the other kind of situation where DLSS, I'm trying to remember, I think in some spots it had some better clarity, but it had worse temporal stability than FSR, whereas FSR was a little bit softer. But it's like you can turn on the sharpening filter and that takes care of it. Also, there was one spot that DLSS just stripped away all detail. It was like a smudge tool on the image. And XeSS was inferior to both at the time. So it's like you should have the ability to select between, but it still is. A game developer would be like, okay, DirectSR, going to use that, so just feed all the information to that. And hopefully in that API, something like, hey, this system supports these super resolution tools, and the game can just be set to ask, okay, hey gamer, which of these do you want? And the API just handles it for you. That's what that is. It is not its own super resolution method. Okay? Maybe Microsoft will ultimately develop a basic one that's there, so regardless of the GPU, you have something. But it is also, that's what FSR fundamentally is, because it does run on basically any modern hardware. So does XeSS, but XeSS has a different pathway for the Intel GPUs, so yeah. Or Microsoft could just decide, hey, we're going to take both of these because they're both open source, and just come up with our own derived from both. That would be fine too. But that's not what it is yet. It might prove to be that it just is not yet. But still pretty. It still is a good thing. It'll be interesting to see if Kronos with Vulkan ends up producing its own version. Da, 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 da. And by the way, I should also mention DirectX are the GPU hardware vendors, as Microsoft put it. So AMD and NVIDIA definitely, hopefully also Intel have been involved in it. But I'm just thinking with with Vulkan, I think that they all would be involved. NVIDIA, well, NVIDIA likes doing their own things, so I'm not sure. But with DirectX R coming out, I could definitely see the pressure on Vulkan to come up with its own. But it may also do it in its own way, because Vulkan does that. Which is fine, because sometimes their own way is like, oh yeah, this is actually more advanced. Alright, so yeah, over an hour, almost an hour and 10 minutes. I am sorry. I am sorry I'm subjecting you to all this. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to mention. Not really. I will be making those changes to the article. My hope is to submit. I don't have all the time to do it today. I'll do some media selection stuff today, those edits I mentioned today. Tomorrow, Saturday, is when I'll try to submit it. So hopefully sometime next week it will be able to go live. Don't know. We will just have to see. Yeah. So that's about how that is. Yeah, that's really it. I'm just thinking if I want to show. I do talk about it in the review the webcam, which is currently disabled, which is part of the reason I don't want to do it. The hardware switches are very. I like that we're not covering the webcam. I'm not covering the microphones. It's like, no, it's disconnected as a device from the laptop. The webcam, I do like it. It's very good with low lights and stuff. I keep my room kind of dim because I don't need it to be bright. My eyes are sensitive enough. And in fact, yeah, I have the laptop turned down to minimal brightness, which is still kind of bright. I went in and adjusted the colors in the AMD drivers to lower the brightness further. I also shifted the color temperature because there's a reddish tint I didn't like. So I made that to more blue. But yeah, so I've actually turned down the brightness, which I may want to actually bring that up because some spots it was a bit dark in the game. But yeah, so I'm good with dim light. Webcams aren't. This one, great. It's like when I first tried it, it's like, oh wow, you can actually see my face. I don't need to adjust anything there, except it looked red. Though maybe that's just the display itself was a little red. So yeah, that's. There's a part of me that's tempted to do that, but it's like I also don't necessarily want to be showing off my face all the time. I mean, it's bad enough I'm subjecting you to my voice, right? But no, it really is a nice and bright webcam. Well, good light sensitivity webcam, I should say, for that. There might be, I'm sure there are some ways that it is inferior to others, but it's for just what's included. I'm definitely happy with it. I was expecting to need to do some brightness adjustment because I had to do that on my previous laptop that died, on the loaner laptop as well. So this, it's quite impressive to me, quite helpful to me as well because it's one less thing I needed to worry about. Okay, I've certainly talked enough. Sorry about that. See you next time.